I'd like to invite Malini Subramaniam. She's an independent journalist and the former head International Committee of the Red Cross. She has reported extensively on human rights violations in India. So hopefully, apart from talking about the press and the siege it is under in India, she will also talk about reporting in conflict zones.
Thank you. See, right at the outset, I wish to express my deep gratitude for being invited to this conference, primarily also because a lot of Indians love to come to Pakistan, and I'm really, really grateful, and I was amazed at the warmth that I came across here from people in the conference, from people on the streets, and they immediately reached out to us saying that, oh, you're from India and most welcome. So thank you so much, and I hope more and more Indians come and more Pakistanis go to India. And I think it's important that we do this exchange of people rather than get caught in cricket politics and politicians themselves who really make it difficult for people's transit and friendship. Of course, Asma Jahangir is somebody whom we have always looked up to. We in India, she's a household name amongst the human rights activists. I've not met her, but I've always followed her work. And it's so privileged, I feel, to be engulfed in the warmth that she has left behind her work and the continuum that continues to happen now with her family, with her friends, and with all her well-wishers, not just in Pakistan, and I think all over the globe. So I'm extremely happy to be here again in this particular conference. Thank you so much for inviting me. To be in Pakistan is definitely it's a great experience, because in India, what we get to see that if you are talking anything against the government policies, and they said, "Acha, to ye baat hai, go to Pakistan." So here I am in Pakistan. I must say that I did not face too much difficulties coming over, and it was rather smooth, unlike my colleague Stephen, who had to go through some kind of a trouble time. But Lahore especially, I must bring in a little bit of personal context that I'm married into a Punjabi family, and my in-laws hail from Pakistan, and before the partition they moved to India, and they really hold very pleasant memories. My father-in-law's families come from Quetta, and my mother-in-law's family come from Sargodha. And I was very keen to visit Sargodha, to a village called Farooqi, where she narrated. She's 83-year-old, and I met her, and she said that in Farooqi, when she came about a couple of months before the partition, sometime in January 1947 for a wedding, and she said the entire village was there and there was a lot of happiness. There was no clue that there's going to be a partition. बिल्कुल एहसास नहीं था कि कोई partition होने वाला है. Or finally when they had to leave, she of course came in much earlier, but her other family members, when they came, there was a sarpanch, a Muslim sarpanch in Farooqi village, who ensured that everybody moved out of their village safely. Unfortunately, there were a few killings. She said about 6 of her cousins, male cousins, got killed, and the sarpanch was so devastated, and he said that mere safed chadar no daag lag gaye. So he was very saddened to, but all the same, I wanted to visit Farooqi and see if his family is still there, and probably even tell them that, they have people in India who hold pleasant memories about the village. And also to be able to write about it, primarily because of the kind of hatred that is being right now spewed amongst the minority community in India. And what I'm going to now come back to the topic that I'm going to discuss, you will see that it will resonate what I'm actually talking about. Now, as I stand before this very distinguished guest, I must say that we're going to talk about media siege, but I'll give you a few examples of some of the journalists. So as I stand here, Siddiqui Kapan, a 43-year-old journalist from Kerala, is spending his 749th day in prison. And mind you, this despite the fact that he's got a bail from the Supreme Court. So 2 years back, he goes to a village in Hathras in order to cover the case of a 19-year-old Dalit girl who was gang raped and murdered with, of course, in complicity with the police and the state government. So when he goes to cover this news along with some of his friends, he's immediately arrested, and he's been saying that he's been charged with sedition, with outraging religious feelings, he's a Muslim, raising funds, and conspiring to commit terrorist activity. This is a journalist who went to cover a news of atrocity against a Dalit girl. Now, why does Kapan continue to remain in jail? Because of some subsequent charges against him, of him being a member of the Popular Front of India. Now, Popular Front of India is an organization which primarily works for the Muslim community in India. And very recently, in September 2022, this is last month, the Home Minister has banned this organization. Now, Siddiqui Kapan is going to be very difficult for him to come out, because now they have charged that he was raising funds and PFI was actually giving him fund to cover this news in order to create a lot of trouble for the country. So the enforcement director, which is now a very convenient arm for our government to slap a lot of cases of money laundering. Now this, and also to fix opposition and opponents, political opponents and dissenters, it has alleged that PFI has funded Siddiqui Kapan's visit to the village in order to disturb communal harmony, instigating riots and speeding terror. Yeah? So this is Siddiqui Kapan, who is now continues to be in jail despite the Supreme Court order for bail. Look at the case of Rana Ayub. She's a fiery journalist, and she's been going hammer and tong against the BJP, and she's made no bush about it. And she was charge sheeted very recently by the enforcement director under, once again, the infamous Prevention of Money Laundering Act, for having raised and collected 2.70 crores for helping people during the pandemic, but not utilizing the funds fully for the purpose. They have made charges that she's put some money into her personal account, she's transferred the money to her father's account, everything of which she's denied, but she will have to sort of prove herself out of it. She's not arrested. But Ayub's, the resentment of the BJP government against Rana Ayub goes back in 2011, because she has been doing a lot of investigative work in the Gujarat riots of 2002, where she said that the current Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah, they are actually involved in the killings of over 1,000 Muslims in the Gujarat 2002 riots. Her book by the name of Gujarat Files is already out, and they are extremely upset about it. Yeah? Now look at what some of our ministers, not the current one, the earlier Minister for Information and Broadcasting says. So these are journalists who have been writing, who have been investigating with evidence, with fact-checking, and giving news. So what does he say? Freedom of press is very important today, but any freedom comes with responsibility. So there has to be responsible freedom and no sensationalization by the press. News should not be deliberately defaming anyone. Yeah? So they will decide who is being defamed. So like in most countries, India too has adhered to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and Article 19(1). It ensures the fundamental rights and right to freedom of speech and expression. However, there is a subclause, 19(2), which imposes reasonable restrictions. So what it does, it allows the government to frame laws to impose reasonable restrictions in the interest of sovereignty and integrity of India, security of the states, friendly relations with foreign state, public order, decency and morality, and contempt of court, defamation and incitement to an offense. So all these exceptions are there. And they find it very convenient to book people exactly in these sections and tell the journalists are using freedom of press for other things. Now, talking about decency and morality, it brings us to another case of Mohammed Zubair. Now, he gave an old tweet in 2018, where he says that before 2014, mark the year, before 2014, Honeymoon Hotel became Hanuman Hotel after 2014. Now, this was an old tweet from an old film that he tweeted from a film called Kisi Se Na Kehna, but he was again charged for hurting religious sentiments. Yeah? Now, Zubair, who is Mohammed Zubair? Zubair, along with Prateek Sinha, another person, journalist, he set up a fact-finding website. It's called the Alt News in 2017, and has been methodically debunking the severe propaganda that BJP's IT cell, they have been putting up fake news, they have been putting up news about, various personalities, including the opponents, in order to defame people. And Alt News has been also very, very clearly monitoring hate speeches. So they looked at an opportunity when somebody can complain about it, and immediately he was put in jail. So now after, Zubair also tweeted about the comments made by the BJP spokesperson insulting Prophet Muhammad during a television debate. And that got really widely covered because he has 100,000 followers. Now, his tweet got so widely shared that several Muslim countries, including the UAE, the Saudi Arabia, the Qatar, and Iran, really made it difficult for the BJP government, and they had to actually suspend the BJP spokesperson. Although initially they said that these are fringe elements, but they were forced to suspend her. Now what happens, people like Zubair and other people, once you're in prison, there are several cases against you, and he was put several cases against him from different cities, and from Delhi, from Uttar Pradesh. So you come out of one case, there's another case filed against you, so you have to fight against the other case. Now, thankfully, a bail was applied for in the Supreme Court, and finally the Supreme Court put all the cases together, asked the Delhi court to look into it, and so that he can walk free. Now, thankfully, the Supreme Court, when the UP government said that there should be a clause in Zubair's bail that he should be refrained from tweeting. And thankfully, the Supreme Court came back to say that it's like asking a lawyer not to argue, a person not to speak. Whatever he does, he will be responsible in law, but we can't ask a journalist to rise. So thanks for that. The Supreme Court came out with that. Now, you would wonder, because of the first few names that I gave are of Muslim journalists, is that so? Is a question that should come into everybody's mind. But no, I had several other examples. Teesta Setalvat, for example, she also moved against became a co-petitioner for one of the Gujarat riots, and as soon as 16 years, she followed a case, and the case was turned against her, and she was put in prison. Today, Zubair is out on bail. Today, Teesta Setalvat also out on bail. I have been reporting from the conflict zones of Bastar. Probably people, I do not know, maybe not know where Bastar exactly is. Bastar is a region in the state of Chhattisgarh, which is in central India, and it has been having the presence of CPI Maoists, which is a banned party, and the government has been really, under the pretext of wiping out the Maoists or putting an end to the Maoist struggle, they have been actually not successful, but instead, in order to show that they are successful or they are able to continue to do their work, they are pulling up innocent villagers, arresting them. There are extrajudicial killings. In fact, what was spoken about in Balochistan yesterday, the session, it resonated a lot with me about what's happening in Bastar. The Adivasis in Bastar are asking for teachers and educationists and health professionals, but what you're getting is forge. There are a lot of checkposts, and primarily because the checkposts are important so that the extractive industries can come, because that's a region which is rich in mineral resources. Yeah. I'm going to stop here because there is a very little time. India is a huge country and I can go on and on about it. I want to only say that, end up by saying that whether it is a central government which wants to apparently declare India to be a Hindu Rashtra, or whether the state governments within the region, even if whichever the party is, they wish to extract the minerals, they will use these enemies, they will create the enemies like the Naxalites or the Muslims, they will create a huge hype around them and actually not allow journalists to do their work and not allow the civil society to function. And this is exactly the use in order to repress the civil society and the journalists. And it's important that the entire fraternity needs to come together in order to challenge this, because there is a much bigger ulterior motive of the government to go ahead with this process of putting the media under complete siege. Thank you.